Hey guys, it's Savannah. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cool cardigan. Let me step back so you can see it better. I think it is so cute. The sleeves have like little cuffs on them, and the stitch is just so cool. It's like a zigzag stitch, and then it just has one button in the front, and it's super easy to make and super size adjustable. You can literally make it any size, any length, however you want it. And so I have this book here of Afghans. I got this like for $3, and it has a bunch of cool Afghans in it, and I wanted to like adapt some of these patterns into garments. So I have this one here, which is where I got the stitch from. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like the zigzag stitch that the cardigan is made out of, and I just adapted that stitch to be the cardigan. So I'm gonna start by showing you like how to do that stitch, and then let me adjust this again. And then once I show you how to do the stitch, I'll like explain how the sizing works and how the cardigan is constructed. So you're gonna need like about, hold on, these are the yarns that I used for making this cardigan. So Lion Brand, Pound of Love. I had 2 different colors of that, and then also Karen 1 pound, and these are just like, I've had these in my stash and I wanted to use them, and you can see I just used 3 different colors. This is actually, I had a leftover version of the Karen 1 pound. If you can see, there's like 2 shades of green. It's literally just a different dye lot, but I think it looks really cool. Hold on one sec. Okay, so I'm just gonna put up on the screen the amount of yarn that I ended up using. Like, I ended up just weighing out my cardigan at the end. So just take those numbers, and you might need to add a little more or a little less depending on what size you make it. And yeah, okay, so this is a really, really easy pattern. You're basically just gonna need to know how to do double crochet, chain stitches, maybe a half double crochet here and there. And then there's another stitch, but I'm gonna walk you through how to make like the entire stitch that this pattern is made up of anyway, so I'll explain that all as we go. And then besides yarn, you're probably just gonna need like scissors, like a tapestry needle to weave in ends, and then like a crochet hook. I used a 5.5mm crochet hook, and then just for the starting chain I used a 6mm crochet hook, which is optional. I'll show you like how to do that once we get into making the pattern. And also you might want some stitch markers, but you can use just like scrap yarn if you want for your stitch markers. Yeah, so we're gonna go right now into how to make the stitch. All right, so today I'm going to show you how to do the zigzag stitch, and you're going to need at least 2 different colors of yarn. And then the main pattern, I'm going to be working with a 5.5mm crochet hook. And then for the starting chain, I'm going to be using a 6mm crochet hook. And that's just because with this pattern, it can get kind of tight with the starting chain. So I'm going to go up like 0.5 millimeter size. If you want though, you can just chain very loosely with your size that you're going to use for the main pattern. So what we're going to do is just pick the color that you want to start with, and we're going to just, for a swatch, we're going to chain an even number of chains. All right, so I just chained 16, and now we are going to chain 4 extras. So these are going to be your extra chains. Just chain 4, and those are going to count as your first double crochet in chain 1, and that'll make more sense as we get into the pattern. So now what we're going to do is double crochet into the 6th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so imagine 3 chains is a double crochet, or a double crochet, 1 chain is just a chain, and then 1 chain is a chain. And as we get into the pattern, that'll make more sense. So chain 1, and then we're going to skip a chain, and we're going to double crochet into the next chain. And then chain 1 again, skip a chain, and so that's the one, and then double crochet into the next one. And we're just going to do that until we get to the end, and you should end with a double crochet. All right, so once you get to the end of your chain, this is basically row 1 of our repeat, just a little different because we're doing it in a chain. And now we're going to turn our work, and we are going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to count as our first double crochet. And now I'm going to show you how to do the book that I found this in. It calls it like an extended treble crochet, but it's a little different from a regular treble crochet. So basically you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to insert your hook into this little chain 1 space, and then you're going to yarn over, pull up another loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. And now what we're going to do is this little chain that we skipped on the first row right here, we're going to go into that chain, and then yarn over, pull that through that 1 chain. Now you should have 4 loops on your hook. And now we are going to insert our hook back into the chain 1 space, so not into the starting chain, but right into the chain 1 that we made on the last row. And then we're going to yarn over, and this part is a little tricky, but just pull it through the chain 1 space and through the next 2 loops on your hook. And then just yarn over regularly, and then pull through 2 loops and pull through 2 loops again. It seems really complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it is super, super easy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet into this next chain 1 space. So right where my finger is right here, this is what we're working into. So you're going to put 2 stitches into each of these little spaces right here. So just a normal double crochet, and then you're going to do another treble extended crochet. So again, you yarn over first, go into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, and now we're going to go into the skipped chain from the beginning of the pattern, yarn over, pull up a loop. We now have 4 loops. Then we're going to go back into that chain 1 space. Again, not into the starting one, just into the chain space. Yarn over, then pull through the chain 1 space and through 2 loops on your hook. Just like that. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, just like with a normal treble crochet. And basically you just do that in every of these little chain 1 spaces to the end. So again, double crochet first goes into the chain 1 space, and then into the same chain 1 space you're going to do that extended treble crochet. Just remember, the second one you do goes through the little chain that you skipped on the first row. All right, and once you get to the end, remember for our starting chain we did those extra 4 chains.
So you're just going to do a double crochet into the third chain. So count them, 1, 2, 3. All right, and that's how you do the second row of the pattern. You can't tell yet, but once you change your colors, these are going to be those super cool zigzag stitches. Okay, so now for the next row, it's basically the same as your first row. You're just not working in the chain, you're now working in these stitches. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3 equals a double crochet, and then 4 is the chain 1. Turn your work around, and we're actually gonna skip this first stitch because this counts as a double crochet. You're technically, it's like you've already worked in it. So just pretend this one isn't there, and then this is the stitch that you're like skipping as a part of the pattern, if that makes sense. So then you double crochet into the third stitch. So this one already worked into, this one skip, and then this one is the one you're going to go into. And that's for every row of this repeat. And then you're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet, and you're just going to repeat that till you get to the end. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet. All right, and then for that last double crochet, it is going to go into the top of your chain 3 from the last round. So 1, 2, there's the 3 chains, and you just double crochet into the chain, top of the chain 3. And that is how you do the pattern basically. And now for the color changing, basically you can change colors as little or as much as you would like, but the rule is that you change it after this row. So after you do your double crochet chain 1 row, that is when you're going to want to change colors after that. So let me undo this and then add in my new color. So you start with a chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. This counts as your first double crochet. And now we are going to do our treble crochet, or our extended treble crochet. So you yarn over, go into the chain 1, pull up a loop, go into this skipped stitch from the last row, yarn over, pull 1 up. You have 4 loops on your hook now. Go into the chain 1, space, yarn over, and then pull through the chain 1 space, pull through 2 loops at the same time, and then pull through 2 loops twice. 1, 2. So again, just like we did with the previous, or the second repeat row that we do, but we are just working into these little skipped stitches instead of the skipped chains. So double crochet into the chain 1 space, yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, go into your skipped stitch from the last row, yarn over, 4 loops on your hook, go into the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops and the chain 1 space, and then pull through 2 loops twice. And that is basically the entire repeat. And I'm just going to do another row for you here, or 2, and then you can see how the zigzag starts to form. And remember, you always end your row by double crocheting into the top of the chain 3. Okay, so this is what it looks like after a few rows. and changing colors 2 times, and you can see that really cool zigzag is starting to form. And if you want your zigzags to be bigger, of course, just to change colors less often. And yeah, so that's basically how you do it. And to make sure that you're doing the pattern correctly, I like to count these spikes. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you remember, we did 16 chains for our starting chain. And so the spikes are going to be half the amount of chains that you did. So we have 8 of them. Okay, so the way the cardigan is made, I'm going to be starting with 212 chains and then of course plus 4. And that is going to be making the first part of the cardigan. And it is made like horizontally. So the sizing for the beginning part is not super important unless you want your cardigan to be super long or if you want it to be super cropped. And I'll explain that part in the next part of the video, and you can see what I mean by that.
Okay, so I'm going to try and explain the construction of this. So this is the first piece that I'm making, and right now it's about 9 inches like wide, and the length, it's hard to see, but it's about 62 inches like this way. And basically what you're going to do is fold it over your shoulder. Step back so you can see better. And basically this part is the part that is going to become the side seam. And this is where your armhole will be. So you want to just check, like make sure that this part is even, because this is how long it's going to be basically. And if you want, you can get some like stitch markers and pin this together or somehow before you sew it, just so you can see what it's going to look like, because basically this is how the opening, how like big the opening is going to be, and then maybe like another inch or so if you want to do like a border around the opening. So once you make this part, and again it's like 62 inches all the way here and then 9 inches across is how much I've done it. And now you're going to find the centermost stitch. So fold it in half, or just like count your stitches and divide them in half. And for the next row 1 of the repeat, see it's like this one, you're only going to go halfway down, and you can see I already did it. This is like my middle stitch. So you're just going to do that, and then you're going to work back and forth from here. So you're going to only be doing this part, not the other half, and like not doing anything to this front half. And this is going to become the back. If this is confusing, just wait till the next part and I'll show you like how I did it, and like you can see and just copy what I did.
Okay, so I just got done doing this whole part, and then this part is basically the back. And this doesn't have to be exact. This is about 3 inches, I think. But this part doesn't matter is sizing as much as like your front and back part of this part, if that makes sense. Because this is going to be like your neck opening, and this will kind of cross over as part of the neck opening, and then it's going to go up again for the other front half. So basically, in order to figure out if your sizing is going to work out, this is of course going to be your entire around your waist, including the opening, and it's going to fold over like this to be the front. So the circumference of the entire cardigan, like around your waist, is basically going to be, so this is your side seam, and then this is the armhole and like where your shoulder goes. And then so open it up, this is where it's going to be sewn together. And basically don't count this part, because this is just for the back piece. So down here, start where your back piece begins, and measure from here, and then like including this all the way to here, and then add on that same measurement again to the other side, and that's going to be the width of your cardigan, like going all the way around, including the front pieces. So since for the back piece we did half the amount of stitches we have, we're just going to count all these stitches that you have, and we're going to add them on again. So chain the amount of stitches that you have for this, and then add another 4 chains for like the beginning, just like we did at the very beginning of the pattern to make this stitch. And then you're just gonna like continue and basically on your starting chain and then go back down here, if that makes sense. Okay, so I just realized I'm actually like, this is down here, my working yarn. So on my next row, it's actually going to be like the row 1 with only your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So then when I chain the next, after I do my chain, the next row is going to be the row 2, and I don't want to start with that. So instead what I'm going to do is just cut my working yarn down there, and I'm going to reattach it here, and then I'll do my chains and then the same amount of stitches, of course, and then you chain an extra 4, and then so after that chain, then I'm going to work the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and that way I can just do it for the next row of this, and then just do it all the way down, and then the next row I'll be back on track. Also, don't forget that when you're doing your chain, do it the same way you did your first starting chain. So I'm using my 6mm crochet hook. Okay, so this is what the whole body piece looks like once it's all done. This is where we stopped like doing half of it and did this part, and this is, I just measured it, it's 4.5 inches, just this back piece. And then this is where we did all our chains and then just continued it. So it was back to the size that we had it before. And these ones are actually each 9 inches wide. So you did 9 inches, then you only did the half part, and then you did all your chains to get it back to the normal size, and you did 9 inches again. Okay, so this is what it looks like on. I don't know if you can tell, but these are like pinned together with some stitch markers, and that's just so I can get an idea for the size. It's really hard to get it all in frame. Hold on. Okay, now I think you can see a little bit better. So see, it's just like that, and then this side I had it pinned, but I unpinned it because I was going to show you how it looks. And see, this is where you want to place your armhole markers. And these can be however, like whatever size you need them to be for your arm. Just pinch it together and move around like this just to see if that's the size that you want your armhole to be. And then just place some stitch markers. See, I placed them on both sides. And then I'll show you how that we're going to do the arms. Okay, and so this is where I measured out my armholes. So you try it on like I did, and then you pinch it under your arm where you want your armhole to be. You don't want it too tight because then it's like your arm's not going to be able to move. So give yourself a little extra space for the armhole. And now for the armhole, we're going to make it a separate piece, but this is basically for measuring it. And what we're going to do is we're going to count these little spikes from one end to the next marker. So from this marker to this marker, just count the spikes. I'm going to count them. Okay, so we have about 33 of the spikes. And if you remember the pattern, it's like every 2 chains that you make is going to be 1 spike. So 33 times 2 is going to be 66. So for the arm, we're going to start from the top and we're going to chain 66 times plus the 4 for the beginning. Remember how we did it before. And then you just start the pattern from there. Okay, so again, for your arm piece, you're going to do the amount of spikes times 2 and then add the 4 beginning chains. And then we are going to work in the pattern just normally for 6 inches, and then I'll show you how to do decreases for the arms. Okay, so for your sleeve, after you do about 6 inches, it doesn't have to be exactly 6 inches, but
Just make sure whatever you do, you match it up for both of the sleeves. And you want to end after, you can see it's the white, so it kind of gets a little blurred out, but it's after the double crochet, treble crochet row. So this next row is going to be the double crochet chain 1 row, and we're going to do it as our decrease row. And how we're going to do that is we're going to start just like we normally would. So make your chain 4, which counts as the first double crochet chain 1. Now usually, remember, this is the one that the chain 1 is coming out of, so that's already worked in, and then you would skip 1, and then you would double crochet into this one right here. Hold on, let me flip my work around. So usually we would be going into this 3rd one. So for the decrease though, we're going to go into the 4th one. So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're just going into the next one after the one you would usually do. And then we're just going to chain 1 and skip the next one and double crochet. And just as you normally would for this row. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And then when we get to the end, I'll show you how to do the decrease over there. Alright, and now I'm at the end, and usually you would only have one little stitch left, but now we have 2 stitches left. You can see 1, 2. And we're just going to do our chain 1, and we're going to skip both of those stitches and go into the top of the chain 3 like we would on any other round. And now, to know that you did your decrease correctly, just count all your little loops or your little chain 1 spaces, and you should have 1 less than you did before. So before I had 32 chain spaces, and now I have 31. And the same is for the little spikes. You should have 31 of the little extended treble crochet spikes. So before I had 32, and now I'm going to have 31 on the next row. And the next row is basically the exact same as normal. Just start with your chain 3, and then in these little decrease chain spaces that we did before, you can just work into either one of them. It doesn't matter really which one, just whichever you think looks the best for you. And then work to the end as normal in the same, like when you get to here. Because we have 3 skipped ones, I like to just do like the middle one here for that first one. But that's about it. And after I do my decrease row, I like to just put a little marker in it every time. And that's just so I can remember that this is the decrease row. And then we are going to basically do another row, 1, and then we're going to do a regular chain 1 double crochet row, and then we're going to do another of the extended treble row. And then on the 4th row, you're going to do another decrease row. So every 4th row after this, we're going to decrease, and I'm going to do that 7 times. So 8 total decrease rows, including this one. Okay, so I just did those next 3 rows. It looks like this. This is where my stitch marker is. And then the next one is this extended treble crochet row. This is the next chain 1 double crochet row right here, you can see. Then another treble extended crochet row. And then on this 4th row, we are going to do another of our decrease rows. Let me just show you. I'm literally watching a tutorial while I am making a tutorial. Okay, so after you do your 8 decrease rows, it looks like this. You can see I marked every one, so there should be 8 markers. And now what we're going to do is do one more row after your last decrease row. So this is the decrease row where this pink marker is, and then I did one more of the extended treble crochet row. And now we are going to do like a decrease row, but a different kind. So this next round, we are just going to start by chaining 2, and then that counts as the first half double crochet. So you're going to skip this first one, go into the second one and do a half double crochet. And then we're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to half double crochet and then do another half double crochet into the next one, and then skip 1, do 2 half double crochets, and we're going to just do that till the very end. Okay, so now I'm at the end. I don't have an exact number of stitches, so I'm just going to skip the next one and crochet into the top of that chain 3 from the last round. And it doesn't really matter the stitch number. You just want to pull this in a little bit. If you want like flared sleeves, you don't have to do this step and you can just leave it. And now you can go ahead and like check if this is the right length for your arm. Now mine is not a full length sleeve, and that's because I'm going to add a cuff at the end here, and it's going to pull it in even more. But again, if you don't want to do a cuff or anything like that, just check the length as you go and like try it on your arm and see if it's going to be the right length for you. But now you can go ahead and cut your yarn and leave like a long tail for sewing. Okay, now the next step we need to do is get rid of all these ends, and you can weave them all in if you would like, but because I'm lazy, I'm literally just going to tie some really tight knots and then like just snip them here, not too far, but like so enough that they don't come undone. And you're not really going to be able to see it because these are going to be like your seam of the arm, which is going to be like underneath the arm. Okay, so I got rid of all those ends. You can tell it's on this side, but you can barely see it. And then I took out our stitch markers because we're not going to need those anymore. And now it's going to be time to sew it onto the body. And I already did the one sleeve inside just so I could get it out of the way. It looks like this. And you can barely see any of those little tied in ends. And this is the underarm, so you're not going to be able to see this seam barely either. Okay, and you should already have your armhole marked out from earlier when you tried it on. Like here is the neck. And then I added another marker just to the center. So this is going to be your center. So just go straight across and then place a marker here. And then to make sure that your arm is going to be centered on the body, what you want to do is count all the stitches from one marker to this marker over here. And I have 33. So I'm going to divide it in half to 30, so 33 is going to be 16 and a half, will be half of it. And then I'm going to count from the here to here and make sure there's 16 and a half. And then here to this marker should also be 16 and a half. Just to make sure that your arm is going to be centered on the body. Okay, and then you're literally just going to take your arm and line up the top of it. And now you just want to sew it together with the right sides facing. So I added a marker here in the center of the arm just to make sure when I'm sewing that I don't somehow end up with more stitches over here than over here or whatever. Okay, so I just sewed the entire arm on, and you can see it looks like this from the wrong side. Then the right side I think looks much nicer. So now you can start from the top of the sleeve or the bottom, but you just want to match it up. And again, you want the right side, which is this side, to be on the inside, and you can just sew the entire thing shut. Sorry, I'm trying to show you this with one hand. Okay, I finally lined it up. So just sew to the bottom of the arm and then all the way down the side any way you want to, and then you can turn it like from the inside out to the right side out, and it'll look really nice. And then I'll show you how to do the cuffs real quick. Okay, so you're gonna want to try on your sweater or your cardigan to the way that you're going to be wearing it, and just measure your wrist. So you can see I don't need a very big cuff, just a small one. Measure the length you're going to need, and then we're going to use that to make the cuffs. Or you could just estimate it. So now you're just going to start with a slip stitch using my 5.5mm needle or hook still. And for me, I'm just going to chain, I think, 9, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is really easy. And then just measure it on your wrist because this is going to be the length that it is. And then just go into the second loop from the hook and slip stitch. And then you just slip stitch in each chain to the end. So just like that. And then chain 1, turn, and now we are going to be working in the back loops of these slip stitches. So right into here and slip stitch, and then into the next one, slip stitch into the loop that is farthest from you. And that's basically how you do the entire cuff. And you're just going to keep doing that and measuring it to see when it will fit around your wrist to be the length that you need it to be. So this is the one that I already did, and once it's the length that you need to fit around your wrist, you're basically going to fold the whole thing in half and just slip stitch it to the beginning. So you can see this is where I slip stitched it to the beginning chain. Right here is that seam, and then when you turn it inside out, it looks pretty much seamless. And that's basically how you do your entire cuff. And then we are going to take our finished sleeve and we're basically going to sew it onto here. And you can see there's quite a difference in size. So what you want to do is count all around your stitches. I counted, I believe I have 31. And then go ahead and count your little bumps here. I believe I have 21. So if I did the math correctly, that means I would sew one to this stitch and then sew it to this stitch. And then I'm going to sew this one back into this one right here. Okay, so I think we are on the final day of making our cardigan, and I am so excited. All my sleeves and cuffs are sewn on. My side seams are done, and the only thing that's really left to do is, so we have all these ends to weave in. However, I kind of like the look of them as like a fringe almost. I'm not sure if I want to keep them because they're not like on, they're only on like this side because this is where we added in the yarn. So I'm not sure if I want to keep them or not yet. But of course you can weave them in if you want. And there's just a few up here. And these ones I think I'm going to go over when I work over when I make my border.
And this is optional, of course, as well. If you don't want to add a border, you don't have to, but basically we're just going to crochet all the way up here, around, and back down the other side for a couple rows. I think I'll probably just do like half double crochets because I really like doing half double crochets and I didn't get to do any on this pattern yet. So I'll probably just do that, but it's not like anything super important. Like you can do double crochets if you want, treble crochets. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, whatever you want to do. And however big you want to make your border around there is totally up to you as well. So let me just do that and then I'll show you what I did, and you can do what I did or you can make a totally different creative decision if you would prefer.
Okay, so today is the last day that I am filming and my cardigan is all finished. It's hard to see it. Let me move this back again so you can see the whole thing. It's super long. It's really lightweight. It probably is going to be perfect for spring. And for the border that I did, it literally just goes all the way around the neck. There is nothing fancy about it. It is, I think, 6 rows of half double crochets. And then for the buttonhole, you don't need to add a button if you don't want to, but it's basically just on the last row of half double crochets I did like a little chain loop, so I just chained however many I needed for it to fit through my button, and then slip stitched it and then continued doing my half double crochet last row, and then I just put the button on there, and that's literally all there is to it. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I have anything else to share with you guys today. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please, if you made this, tag me on Instagram. I would love, love, love to see how yours turned out and what color choices you made. My handle is @SavannahHandmade. Thank you again so much for watching till the very end, and I will see you again soon. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Bye-bye.